and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Do you remember earlier, maybe late December, all the media outlets were interviewing House reps and senators from our state house, and they said this session is going to be a chill session. We're not going to be dealing with any controversial issues. We're just going to keep it light and lively. You know what they did, though, right? They lied. They lied through their little lying teeth. They lied. Because if they wanted to be chill and not have any issues, they would not have introduced HB 1291. Yes, I'm going in on HB 1291. Let me read to you this. WNDU reports an Indiana bill slated to be considered in the 2024 legislative session seeks to require identification documents to reflect a person's assigned sex at birth. House Bill 1291, authored by Representative Chris Judy of Allen County, come on, Allen County, replaces the term gender with the phrase biological sex for statutes in which the term is used to describe the condition of being physically male or female. This includes documentation such as driver's licenses or state identification cards. It would also apply in the case of sex discrimination benefits and services. The bill would effectively prevent transgender people from changing said identification document to reflect their gender identity and expression. Now, somebody went to a science book and learned some things, because intersex people are mentioned in the bill but are referred to as having a medically verifiable genetic disorder or of sex development. The bill also seeks to change the state's stance on gay marriage by stating that marriage is between one man and one woman. Per the bill, any other marriage is void in Indiana if the marriage is lawful in the place where it was solemnized. 16 News now has reached out to the aides of Representative Judy for official comment, but has yet to hear back at the time of publication. The bill has been referred to the Judiciary Committee for the time being. Okay, here we go again. Republicans just can't leave well enough alone. They're literally trying to legislate the erasure of transgender people. So if you've gone through gender reassignment surgery and you are taking hormones as an adult, you can no longer be in Indiana. They want to say you ain't who you say you are, because they know you better than you do. They know you better than you. So you can't be who you say you are. Now, here's the bad thing about it. Say you are a transgender woman who finds themselves in some legal troubles and you find yourself incarcerated. They are going to put you in an all-male prison. That don't even make sense. Because they are no longer men. They are women. They have identified as women and have had gender reassignment surgery to make their body match with who they are in their brain. But then in the slyest and slickest of moves, to say that marriage is only between one man and one woman. Well, Obergefell, we already took care of that at the Supreme Court. But just like we try to tell y'all wasn't listening because y'all was all in your feelings. It was all about the Supreme Court in 2016. Now your right to choose what happens to your body when it comes to reproductive health is gone. We knew that they would be coming for Obergefell next. And here is Indiana putting in place a trigger law. So when they toss it down, Indiana can say, excuse me, all gay marriages, they don't work no more. You're not married anymore. Null and void. I mean, this is the exact opposite of a super chill legislative session. The exact opposite of that. And the fact that these people can't seem to get out of our pants, they some nasty people. They can't get out of our pants. They can't get out of what we doing in our bedroom. They all in our business. The don't tread on me people are all in our business. Now, one thing I did not see in that legislation I did not see where it said if your ID does not line up with what your original birth certificate said, you are no longer allowed to contribute to the systems that care for people in the form of taxes. See, they want your money. They're going to come get your money. You get to pay to be a Hoosier, but you don't get any of the benefits of being a Hoosier. I don't know why everybody ain't upset like I'm upset. Why do I have to keep paying into a system that says I'm a second-class citizen? So I hope one of my representatives, call your legislators, call your House rep today and tell them nah on 1291. Tell them nah. We don't want no parts of that. And tell them if it calls to a floor, somebody needs to be writing an amendment that says that these folks are now exempt from paying taxes into the state of Indiana. Because if we can't receive the benefits, then why should we pay the price? That's like buying a car and never getting to be able to drive it. That don't even make sense. It angers me. It pisses me off. Another bill that I want you guys to pay attention to, and I hope I have the number. It doesn't look like I have the number here, but WRTV reports hair discrimination is something many often face in both the workplace and in their daily life. According to the crownact.com, 23 states across the country have banned discrimination based on hair texture or protective styles. Now, Indiana lawmakers, both in the House and Senate, are trying to do the same. Just don't tell me what to do with my hair, says State Representative Vanessa Summers. And that's how I feel. That's a message she has been trying to send for years. Summers is the author of House Bill 1124, which would prohibit discrimination based on traits historically associated with race, such as hair texture and protective hairstyles. It's a bill she has filed before, but hopefully it'll get heard this year. Now, look, if they can have a hearing in the Education Committee on the definition of what anti-Semitism is, and I'm all for it, then surely to goodness and mercy, they can go ahead and hear this bill. Because I'd be doggone if I be treated differently because of the way my hair grows out of the top of my scalp. I've even heard people tell some women, you should go get a perm so that you can assimilate into the white world and have bone straight hair. Not realizing the damage that those chemicals could do to one's hair. Just because some people do it don't mean all people got to do it. So hopefully HB 1124 gets called into a committee and gets heard this year, because dang, I can't even just be me with the way my hair grows out of my head. Jiminy freaking Christmas. That don't even make sense, and y'all know it don't make sense. So thank you, Representative Summers, for pulling that bill up, or authoring that bill, and hopefully it'll get called. I wanted to also hit on this other bill, because this bill is a clear indication that Republicans have no desire for you to show up at the polling place, regardless of your economic status. Senate Bill 187. And I want to thank my boy Brandon Evans for bringing this one to my attention. Senate Bill 187 prohibits a free or reduced fare on Election Day. This bill is authored by Senator Gary Byrne, and I know he is, a homeboy of Freeman down there on the south side of Indiana. The basic digest of this bill is prohibits certain free and reduced public transportation fares on Election Day. I don't know how cruel you can be that you wouldn't want someone to get assistance getting to the polls to cast their vote. You're making it Representative Wesco, with his little sneezy ass, is doing everything he can to make it difficult to get absentee ballots. Now this clown is saying, well, you can't have an absentee ballot, but we're not going to help you get to the polls either. I'm wondering what's wrong with Republicans. Do they just not want people to vote? Do they have a hard time with people voting? Or maybe they just know that people eventually vote against their really bad policies. I don't know, like SB, 1291. And finally, gosh, in an effort to get Indiana off this island, everybody around us is passing marijuana legislation to legalize marijuana, but Indiana wants to be behind the times. The Indy Star reports Indiana lawmakers from both parties again filed bills this year that aimed at legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana. But Republican leaders say there is no hope for progress on legislation in 2024. But they want to erase trans people. Okay. Are we going to legalize cannabis this session? That's not going to be the case. Senate Pro Tem Roderick Bray of Martinsville told reporters on Tuesday. Marijuana over the last several years has become an annual topic during the legislative session. Lawmakers file bills every session that later die without seeing much debate. So let me go down through the bills that have been introduced. This is a problem I'm having. You have people all over the state that are telling their legislators, this is what we want. This is a representative government. And these people are supposed to represent us. And if we're telling them this is what we want to decriminalize it. I mean, I have a hard time that there are too many disproportionately black and brown people sitting in jail right now, where there are millionaires in California and in Illinois and Ohio making money off of what we got black and brown people sitting in jail for. These are the bills. Senator Rodney Pohl introduced SB 99, would legalize use of cannabis by people 21 and older or those with a medical condition. It also sets forth additional taxes and regulations and oversees agency for cannabis in Indiana. Senate Bill 107 also outlines an extensive plan for regulating cannabis in Indiana with a focus on its lawful production and sale. This is authored by Senator David Niezgodsky of South Bend. Senate Bill 126 would establish a medical marijuana program in Indiana. It would permit patients with a physician's recommendation and their caregiver to possess a certain quantity of marijuana. Authored by Senator Greg Taylor, because obviously opioids are working out just fine. No, they're not. The Indiana House also has a bill on the docket this year about medical marijuana. It would require the state health department to enforce the program and include additional regulations for permit holders and regarding proper labeling and child resistant packaging. That was by Representative Jim Lucas of Seymour. Also in the House, the bill would decriminalize the possession of 2 ounces or less of marijuana, and this was authored by Representative Heath Van Natter. Apparently, our prosecutor in Marion County, Prosecutor Ryan Mears, had a good idea, didn't he? Because he said he wasn't prosecuting anybody with less than an ounce. He wasn't messing with them. Well, here, this Republican out of Frankfurt is saying, you know what? We could do 2 ounces. 2 ounces decriminalized. And then finally, House Bill 1282 sets up guidelines for production and sales of marijuana in Indiana, including establishing a cannabis excise tax. And that's with Representative Blake Johnson. So guys, look, these are some of the bills. There's too many of them, obviously, for me to read. But if any of these things touched on you, call your senators and call your representatives. This is the time. This is a short session. Now, look, here's the other thing. We know that they ignore us pretty regularly. They're going to do what they want to do because we really don't matter. Even though this is a representative government, we really don't freaking matter. But that being said, don't give up hope, because this is an election cycle. We have the opportunity to change who represents us in that state house. So you got to get out here, donate to these candidates, donate to Stonewall. Indiana Stonewall Democrats, go to their page, donate so that we give money away. We just give money away to our endorsed candidates. That's what we do. We raise it and give it away. We start out with very little at the beginning of the year, and then we start all over again because we want to help our candidates. So if you're angry, like I'm angry, get involved. Time, talent, or treasure. That's what I'm requiring of everyone in 2024 if we want to hold on to our democracy at all levels. All right. Let me give a shout out to my sponsors, Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. kind of fond of that ad that I put together. Yes, I did that. At Black Pearl Studios, I can help you too with your messaging. Listen, if you are a campaign and you don't have a $20,000 budget and you need somebody to put together a decent ad for you, scan the QR code, reach out to me, and Black Pearl IT Solutions, Black Pearl Studios, I can help you create your messaging. I did that. It's very clean, very simple, but I can do that for you. So reach out to me. All right, let me get to my guest. So, I tried to have two guests. I don't know where my other one went to. Sorry. But I'm actually really excited that I get to spend an entire hour with my guest. I've had a chance to see him all over the state this past 8 months or so, doing his thing, getting ready to take on the presumptive nominee and Trump bootlicker, Jim Banks, in the fall. Y'all give it up to someone I'm getting to know better and better every day, Marc Carmichael, who is running for the United States Senate. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dana. It's great to be here. And I love hearing you talk because you tell the truth and we need more of that.
Well, thank you. And I've decided this year I'm going to live my truth. I'm not pulling any punches. I'm going to keep the curse words to a minimum, but I am not pulling any punches on this clowns because these folks, I mean, you're headed to the United States Senate. You see the garbage that's happening. It's not so bad in the Senate, but it's definitely bad in the House. You see where our democracy is at stake. When you think about, going into the United States Senate, what are your thoughts on protecting our democracy, Marc?
Dana, a year ago, you couldn't have convinced me that I would be sitting here having this conversation with you. I was retired. I was minding my own business. I was just hanging out, and enjoying life and working on an old wooden speedboat that I bought. And I was trying to get it ready for the 2023 season. And Jim Banks announced that he was going to run for the United States Senate. And I thought, oh my God, how awful would it be for the state of Indiana to have Jim Banks as our United States Senator? I mean, it would just be one embarrassment after another. And so I pondered that for a while. My boat wasn't ready for the 2023 season. I needed about 3 more months, and I had time to get it done. But I kept thinking about Jim Banks, United States Senator, bomb thrower. It'd be like having Marjorie Taylor Greene in the Senate. And so I contacted the state party and I said, hey, not because I was interested in running, I was just interested in knowing. And so I contacted the state party and I said, hey, this was about April. And I said, who we got to run against Banks? And the word came back, how about you? And I thought, what? What are you talking about? I haven't been on the ballot since 1996 when I ran for the Congress against David McIntosh, another bomb thrower. So anyway, I said, oh, no, I mean, really, there has to be. I can see that this race can be won. And yet, first of all, my boat's not done. And secondly, I'm retired and I wasn't thinking about running for political office ever again. And so I basically kind of sort of turned him down and said, no, keep looking. I'm going back to work on the boat. For one thing, the damn boat was upside down and I needed to get it finished to the point where I could turn it back right side up and get it on a trailer so I could get it the hell out of where I was working on it. And so the guy that was helping me could get on to some other projects. So I really wasn't in a position to commit at that time. And I wasn't even thinking about committing. I thought, no, I'm not me. So I kept working on the boat. we got it to the point where we could get it flipped back over and put back on the trailer, and I could get it out of there. And I said to them, because my girlfriend's raising her nephew, and he was graduating from high school, and I didn't want to be a story when he needed to be the story. So I said, okay, graduation weekend, first weekend of June, I said to the state party, I said, here's the deal. And this was in May. If you don't have somebody better than me by June the 5th, which I think was that Monday, I'm going to announce. I'm going to go. And June 5th came, and I announced. And here I am.
Well, I'm glad you're running. You know.
Well, I hear that a lot. You know, I mean, everybody who's not running thanks me for running.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I ran for Congress, and that was a lot of territory to cover.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't 92 counties.
No, it's not. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because just like a lot of people, you know, people like you, a lot of people call and say, well, who does the party have running? And you don't realize that's a lot of work. And you're asking somebody to sacrifice income. You're asking somebody to sacrifice time. And it's a lot to give up. And so I love it that the answer came back to you. Why don't you run? Because that's my answer when people ask me all the time, well, who's running here? Who's running there? Why don't you run? Because it's not hard work. The party doesn't, you know, pick people to run for these really hard races. People have to sacrifice time to do it. So that's why I took that. It's
a full-time job.
Yes.
And it doesn't really lend itself to most people's lifestyle.
No.
I mean, you either have to be independently wealthy or run your own business or be retired. And that's a shame, you know, because it eliminates a lot of good people. And so anyway, I've had success politically in Indiana.
Well, hold on. I got to ask a question. Tell the people who you are and where you come from. I got to ask it. Start at the beginning. All
right. Okay. All right. I know we got an hour to fill, but my story's not that interesting anyway. I grew up in Delaware County in Muncie, the Muncie area.
Okay.
Out in the country, surrounded by cornfields one year and soybean fields the next. And I worked jobs for farmers, baling hay, and I worked for a pig farmer one year until my mom put a stop to that. She made me change clothes out in the garage. And so anyway, my mom and dad, they got me a job with a home builder in the Muncie area. So from the time I was 16 until I graduated from college, I worked for a home builder to make money on the side. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I worked hard. And I like to say that if I had to, I could build a house, but I don't want to. You know, I can do just about anything, but I don't want to do it. So anyway, I went to college. I got a scholarship, a local scholarship that allowed me to go to Notre Dame and for free.
Oh,
which was an amazing thing. I had looked at Wabash and Rose Poly, maybe to play small college football, but I got this chance to go to Notre Dame on a local Delaware County scholarship.
That's dope.
And so I jumped at it. And I went to Notre Dame, graduated, and went to work for Notre Dame.
Oh.
And worked for them for 4 years. And then I went to work for a beer distributor in South Bend, the Budweiser beer distributor, as their operations manager. And I learned a lot about the beer business, which came in handy later when I was a legislator carrying some controversial beer legislation known as beer baron, which was a misnomer, but once the opponents had the label, then we had a hard time shaking it, but that's a different story. Anyway, my wife and I decided to move from South Bend back to Muncie. where we had grown up and where our kids then, our young kids, could be around their family, grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins. And that is where I started my political career, was in Delaware County.
Wait, what did you study at Notre Dame?
Communication arts, radio and television. I thought I wanted to be the next Johnny Carson.
Okay.
Yeah. And then for years, people have said to me that I remind them of David Letterman. And I don't see it, but anyway, I get that. I used to get that quite a bit. Maybe it's when I lost my hair.
I did not see David Letterman when I saw you. I don't hear David Letterman. Maybe it's
anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway,
shout out to David Letterman. Hoosier.
So we moved back to Muncie, and I decided I wanted to get involved in politics. So my first race was against an incumbent Democrat county commissioner. Don't ask me why. It just seemed like the thing to do.
Okay.
So anyway, I decide I'm going to run against this incumbent county commissioner in the primary, a well-liked gentleman in his 80s, probably, from a long-time Delaware County family, and three other people thought the same thing. So I'm in a field of 5 against the incumbent county chairman in 1984. And during the campaign, he gets arrested for shoplifting. And
why is an 80-year-old shoplifting now? Come on.
Well, he forgot. He just said he forgot. And as I get older, I forget all the time. And so back then, I didn't think it was plausible. Now I'm not too sure. So anyway, he gets arrested for shoplifting, and the campaign goes on, and the primary happens, and he wins by a landslide. He lapped the field.
Wow.
And I finished 4th in a field of 5, and the only person I beat was a person who signed up to run and then never showed up to anything.
Wow.
So effectively, I finished dead last. And that was in 1984. In 1985, I attended on Ball State's campus what was called the Bowen Institute for Political Participation, I think is what it was called. But anyway, it was named after Dr. Otis Bowen, former governor of Indiana. And it was a weekend of how to run a political campaign or how to be involved in politics, whether you wanted to be a fundraiser, or a scheduler. But anyway, it was a how-to, hands-on process. And I took notes. And then I approached some of the Ball State professors that were there that weekend and said that I'd been thinking about running for political office. And they were quite excited by the possibility, plus the fact I lived in Muncie, so that they, working at Ball State, could help. And they said, sure, what do you want to do? Who do you want to run against? And I said, well, I'd like to run for the Indiana House. I think I'd like to be a state legislator because my family's involved in public education. My wife's a teacher. I really think I'd like to go in and support teachers and public education in Indiana because I don't think, it's really being supported the way it should be.
Still not.
Nothing ever changes in Indiana. So anyway, they said, well, that's great. Who would you be running against? And I said, well, my opponent would be the Republican Speaker of the Indiana House, a guy by the name of J. Roberts Daley.
Time out. I got to stop you. Bro, I do believe I am your, what do they call it? Doppelganger? What is it?
Doppelganger, yeah, what? Yeah.
Because, mind you, we kind of look slightly different, but we took similar paths.
Yes.
I ran against the Speaker of the House in 16. Uh-oh.
Yes, you had dreadlocks.
Yeah, you remember.
I do remember.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead. Keep on with the story. I'm like, now
I remember because I talked to you then, and I talked to you about running against a speaker. And we were at a Democrat fundraiser, a golf outing or something. And yeah, you were in dreadlocks.
Yeah, but I wasn't golfing.
No, you weren't golfing, but you were in. I remember talking to you about what it's like to run against a speaker. Anyway, okay, so they're thrilled at this opportunity. These are political professors, they don't get a chance to really get their feet wet in real political campaigns. It's all theory and, book learning. So anyway, we started then plotting that fall, which was the fall of '85. We started plotting our little program on how to run against J. Roberts Daley, and I approached two Delaware County legislators, Hurley Goodall and Allie Craycraft, and said to Hurley and Allie, I want to run against Bob Daley. And they said, come on down to the State House and we'll introduce you around. So that winter, when the legislature met, a short session in '86, I did go to the State House a couple of times and met legislators and lobbyists and anyone hanging out in the hallway, how people hang out in the hallway. So the word got out that I was planning to take on J. Roberts Daley. Well, then the session's over, and now you kind of go back to there's not much going on. And I had some brochures made, and I started walking door to door. And I waited till July, our county fair. I spent the week at the county fair, and then I started walking door to door in July in Delaware County. He had crafted a tidy little district for himself, about a 60% Republican district, but it only had 29 precincts in it. It was one half of one county in Delaware County, and it was really the area around Ball State University and some of the areas that I lived in and my family had was teaching school in. And so my family and I matched up great in this district. So anyway, I start walking door to door after the county fair last week of July. And you can imagine how hot it was. But I would try and spend like 2 nights in every precinct and then move on. And so I started in the Democrat precincts because nobody knew who I was, but they knew who Bob Daley was. So when I would stop on their doorstep and say, hi, I'm Marc Carmichael. I'm running for the Indiana State Legislature against J. Roberts Daley. Their eyes would light up. I mean, they would say, oh, yeah, he needs to go. And so that was in Democrat precincts. So I go to independent precincts and I'm getting the same, reception. Oh, Bob Daley, he needs to go. And it kept going right into the Republican precincts. Yeah. But by then, I had the Indiana State Teachers Association helping me.
Okay, ISTA.
Oh, yeah. Back then, they were a force. I mean, they were a force. And they had come to me in September at one of the Democrat fundraisers down in Marion County and said, we think that we want to go after Bob Daley. We want to make you our target race in the House this year.
Love it.
And I said, well, thank you very much. And I went home and my wife said, well, what did ISTA have to say? I said, they want to make me the target race. And she said, well, what does that mean? And I said, I have no idea.
That means they're going to put some energy and some time and some focus.
I have no idea. But it turned out to be money, enough to compete. We got outspent, but still enough to compete. Volunteers, people willing to help because Bob Daley had been so bad for public education, and they were really fired up to get rid of him. And then they later told me that this district, this legislative district, had the highest percentage of ISTA members that lived anywhere in Indiana.
Wow.
So because of Ball State University, they liked to stay near Ball State, I guess, but no matter where they taught in East Central Indiana, they had a tendency to live near that area, near Ball State. So anyway, by September, now I'm starting to pick up a little momentum and volunteers and yard signs, and handouts. And it just kept building and building and building. The enthusiasm, the thought that I could win, because people, they want to help, but they're reluctant to spend their time
Mm-hmm.
and effort on a losing effort.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're taking on the Speaker of the House, it takes a little while to win people over.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, by Labor Day, we were really starting to get it going. And then October was crazy. I mean, it was just with people wanting to help and people wanting to throw fundraisers and people wanting to walk and hand out stuff door to door. And so on election night, we beat him by 18 points. We beat him 59-41.
Wow.
And he won 4 precincts.
Wow.
Total.
Wow. Wow.
I'm still upset about those 4 precincts. I think if we had spent more time in those 4 precincts, we could. No, I'm kidding.
But you just highlighted, that was you said that was in 85, right? 85? 86. That was years ago. And that method of winning an election is still prevalent today. It's tried and true. You got to go talk to the people. You got to get out and talk to the people.
You can do it in a House race. It's really hard in a state House race. The districts are small enough. A Senate race is much tougher to walk door to door.
Oh, no, not for a statewide race. Absolutely not.
Well, an Indiana House race can be walked. But anyway, I walked and walked and walked because I didn't have any money and I had the time. And it was a smallish, compact district because he drew it to make it easy for himself, So anyway, I was the perfect storm. I was the guy who could take him out, and I took him out. And it was a big deal. Evan Bayh was on the ballot that year for Secretary of State. He was running against Rob Bowen, Otis Bowen's son. So you had Otis Bowen's son versus Birch Bagh's son for Secretary of State. They were getting all the attention. I'm just churning underground in Delaware County out of everybody's sight until election night. And then it exploded. And all of a sudden, I've got TV cameras in my front yard, and I got people calling me wanting to know if they can come do an interview. And we took over the news for about a 48-hour period.
Wow.
And it was amazing, the response. But now the Democrats that year, when we started that election cycle, the Democrats had 39 seats. And when that dust settled, we had 48.
Wow.
And, no kidding. And I'm not the only amazing story. I mean, we had people like Tracy Boatwright, who just passed away this week, and Pete Beck. They won a 2-member district. Now, a 2-member district is every bit as big as a Senate district, and back in the day. And so for them to take out 2 incumbents in a 2-member district, I thought was every bit as amazing. But we had people that won against incumbents all over the state that year. And with the help of ISTA and the Democrat caucus and a lot of shoe leather, we went from 39 to 48. The following election, we went to 50-50, first time we were ever in a 50-50 tie. And then the following election, we went to 52.
Okay.
So from 39 to 48 to 50 to 52, it was an amazing run. And the best part about it is that when we won the election in 2000, which meant we got to draw the maps in 2001. And I can't imagine how many decades it had been since the Democrats drew the maps in Indiana. So we drew them in 2001, and then the Democrats, I stepped down at the end of the 2001 session because we did a full session and 2 special sessions trying to get a budget, and I needed to get out of there. It was taking too much of my time. But anyway, we drew the map.
Okay, well, hold on a second. What was your time like in there? You said it was time for you to go. What was your experience like being a legislator?
It's a full-time, part-time job. And if you have a job, which I did, and a family, which I did, it's pretty hard to handle 2 jobs on top of all that. So, the full session and 2 special sessions, we didn't get out of there till June. Now, we weren't in session full time. We did the session and we adjourned, and then we came back for a short session and didn't get any agreement on the budget. We adjourned again, and then we came back and finally hammered out a budget. But it took until June, mid-June, for that session to be over. And I just said, you know what, I got to go.
But before you left, were you able to get any? Were you able to be an author or a co-author on some legislation that was passed into law?
Yeah, and I was on Ways and Means, which meant get things done for Ball State University, and that was my main job as a legislator from Delaware County, especially on Ways and Means, was to get things that Ball State needed in the budget.
And for the people that don't know, what is Ways and Means?
Well, Ways and Means is the committee that begins the budget process, and you have to do a lot of hearings because you have to hear the budget proposals of all the state commissions and all the state offices and the universities, the state police. I mean, everybody that has a line item in the budget of any size at all will come to the Ways and Means Committee and testify about their line item and why it's as big as it is or why it needs to be bigger. And so you're in hearings for many, many hours.
So would you say that Ways and Means is like one of the more powerful committees?
Yes, it's important. I mean, it's where the money goes. It's where the money flows. And, but you have to be able and willing to sit in on countless hours of legislative meetings that other legislators on other committees don't have to spend that much time. So it's a very time-consuming committee, but it's enjoyable if you want to be in the middle of everything. And so I was on Ways and Means for 3 years and did a lot for Ball State and was proud of all of it. But it was time for me to get out of there. And so I stepped down midterm after we drew the new maps. And I thought, okay, we just made this district 50-50 instead of 60-40.
Right.
And so we might be able to hang on to it. And unfortunately, the person who filled my spot and did the short session and ran in the next election, I think lost by like 150 votes.
Wow.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
All right. So that, I mean, I can listen to stories about you in the State House because I'm trying to remember like, oh yeah, he's running for United States Senate. So we probably, I mean, I love that you were able to share with us your experience in being in legislative session. You've been in the minority, you've been in the 50-50, and you've been in the majority. So you have that experience. Let's talk about why you're running for the United States Senate. I know you said that, you reached out to find out who was running and they said, how about you? But when you were contemplating it, yeah, Jim Banks is horrible. He's a horrible, 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 horrible legislator. Horrible. Have I emphasized that enough? Okay. Yeah. He's a horrible.
Well, maybe not enough, but a lot.
Okay. And I get that, but there's got to be some other reasons that and things that you want to accomplish when you are elected to the United States Senate. Why don't you share with us what you want to do when you are elected and sent to D.C.?
Well, let me first start with what made up my mind.
Okay.
4 granddaughters. I got 4 granddaughters. and their human rights are being taken away from them by people like Jim Banks. And I finally decided that if the state party needed me, my granddaughters needed me. I couldn't stay on the sidelines.
Is it?
And the boat could wait. And so I made the decision to go for it, mainly because Democrats in Indiana need the best person we can get to run this race. And I think I'm it. I think the same things line up in this race that lined up against the speaker, because you've got someone that people don't want. Even Republicans that I know don't want Jim Banks, and so it's an open seat, and it's winnable, and it's against someone that I have absolutely no respect for.
Oof.
It's against someone that I can't imagine that he would be my United States Senator. And I've got 4 granddaughters who are counting on me to take him out and to try and restore some dignity to women in this country so that they are not second-class citizens.
I love
it. I also, as we talked about, served in the Indiana legislature when it was nearly 50-50 all the time. It was 48-52, and then it was 50-50. Then it was 52-48. And you had to get along with people on both sides of the aisle to get things done. You had to listen to their side of the story. They had to listen to your side of the story. They co-sponsored your legislation. You co-sponsored their legislation. We got things done. The only thing we really ever argued about was the budget and how to spend the money, because it was a finite amount and everybody had their priorities. And so we would argue about how to spend the money. But on issues that mattered to Indiana, on issues that mattered to rank and file Hoosiers, job creation and infrastructure, and, just think about all the things that this Congress doesn't get to because the bomb throwers in the House, like Jim Banks, don't want solutions. They love the chaos. They like the fact that things are gaslit. The thing that there's a dumpster fire every day that they can use to kind of keep their base interested, because since they can't govern, since they can't point to anything that they accomplish,
nothing,
they have to keep things churned up.
And you're right. And listen, guys, as we're talking to Marc Carmichael, who is candidate for the United States Senate, click on his donate link. He's going to need some money. This ain't no cheap race. So, in fact, what I'm going to encourage you all to do is become a recurring donor. You may not be able to give him $1,000 today. Yes, I'm asking for $1,000. Everyone who's listening to give him $1,000. You do not have to give $1,000 a day, but can you give $25 a month? And then that will add up. Because this is not a cheap race. This is not a school board race. This is not a city council race. This is a big dollar race. So if you want to have a say in who represents us at the United States Senate, time, talent, or treasure, it's not going to happen with you at home praying to whatever deity that you pray to, going, please don't let Jim Banks get elected. We have to be engaged and involved to make this happen. So please donate to Marc Carmichael. Okay, Marc, now the Senate isn't as bad, right? But
that's right.
We've got to try to hold on to the Senate. Joe Manchin deciding not to run doesn't help. Kyrsten Sinema becoming an independent, and I'm not even sure if she's going to caucus with the Democrats. That doesn't help us. So if we could pick up a seat, and we gotta hang on to Sherrod Brown over in Ohio. That's a big one we got to keep, right?
Right.
But there's a chance. But there's a chance that you could go into the Senate in the majority.
Normally the National Senate Committee would not consider Indiana as a pickup opportunity, But when you look at the fact that it's an open seat and you've got a really bad Republican candidate, and then I like to think you've got a really good Democrat candidate.
I like to think so too.
I like to think so too. And so maybe, just maybe, they will be looking at Indiana thinking, you know what, normally, under normal circumstances, we would not spend any time and effort on Indiana. I think they will. I think they should, because they could use a pickup or two. And right now, you know, the only one I hear about is maybe Ted Cruz or down in Florida, Scott. But those are, you know, when you're trying to beat an incumbent, that's tough.
Yeah, yeah.
This is an open seat.
Yeah.
And because of Trump's problems and the fact that Banks is a Trump lapdog.
Oh my God, he should have holes in his knees.
Well, you know, think about Jim Banks. Jim Banks came out of Columbia City and ran for the Indiana Senate and won. That was a gerrymandered district. That was a Republican gerrymandered district for a Republican. So his approach was to, you know, appeal to the base, win the primary, and then you're home free. So a couple of terms in the Indiana Senate, he gets a shot at Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. Again, another gerrymandered Republican seat. Still the same one-trick pony message at the base. And you know how their base, I mean, you know how their primaries are. The most right-wing member of that race wins the primary.
I call them right-wing nuts.
Banks fits the bill.
I call them right-wing nuts.
Yeah. So anyway, you're talking about a guy who's never won a race that wasn't gerrymandered. And he thinks that's a winning formula this time. Yeah. He thinks he can ride that Trump pony to victory in Indiana because A, it's Trump, his old buddy, and B, it's Indiana. He's wrong.
Yeah, because it's not a district. You can't gerrymander a straight statewide race. And we have shown that we can win in Indiana. We just got to show up.
Right. So anyway, the polling that I see and have access to nationally would indicate that Trump's numbers are dropping with independents and moderate Republicans to the point where his solid base number, his Trumper drive through a wall for Trump number, is now down around 35%. And even in places like Indiana, they make a lot of noise. They fly a lot of flags. You know, they make a lot of bomb threats and a lot of personal threats. But the truth is, there aren't that many of them.
Right.
And if 35% is true, then that means 65% of the electorate is looking for someone like me who just wants to go do the freaking job.
Yes, yes.
So just do the job.
And stay out of people's lives.
And that's right. Just keep to yourself. Don't showboat on Fox News. And don't do a bunch of bomb throwing so you can put out press releases every day. Just go quietly, do the job you're elected to do, and be someone that people can be proud of in Indiana, like Dick Lugar, like Lee Hamilton, like Pete Pisklowski. I mean, we appreciate people who just want to quietly do what they were elected to do.
Which is why I'll never get elected, because ain't nothing quiet about me.
Well, you have to pick your spots. You know, I mean, to win an election, you have to be in the right place at the right time. You have to take advantage of that. You have to be good enough to take advantage of it. But you cannot win a race if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's impossible.
Yeah.
And so what I liked about this race when I looked at it, and when I called the state party, I said, we can win this race. Now, it was a we, the royal we, you know. I mean, I wasn't looking to run, but here I am. And I'm glad I'm doing it because I'm older than I used to be. I get tired easier, but I'm still damn good at this.
Mm-hmm.
And, the travel is more difficult, the statewide travel. I don't mind the events. I love the events, being with people, giving a speech, getting signatures and meeting new friends. It's the travel, I mean, what I need is a helicopter. But
well, and I'm gonna be real honest. Like a lot of people don't like to hear me say this, but when Indiana has a essentially 9% in the state, a 9% Black population, 3% Latino population, and like a 2.5% AAPI population. And we have seen that this state has a hard time electing people of color to statewide offices. And I'm not knocking any of your opponents, and they can do what they do because, I love Black women, right? I love Black women. But you might be the right Democrat at the right time, because we want to pretend like humans don't freaking human and they're not going to tribalize. Right. So my thing is, if you understand what the obstacle is in front of you, then you know how to navigate it. I tell people all the time, I want me a cowboy belt buckle, Southern drawl, Southern Indiana, white boy Democrat to run against some of these Republican incumbents, because that's what's going to win in those areas, as long as their policies line up with who we are and they can articulate it with their neighbors and friends. And that's why I think maybe, I believe everybody should have an opportunity to run for office. So if you're running for office, go for it. But you got to remember, you got to be able to count.
Well, you can say that. I can't make that argument.
And you don't have to agree with me either. It's just my opinion.
No, I think unfortunately, I think you're right. I mean, it's Indiana. It's Indiana, folks. I'm sorry.
That's why we do really, really well in the municipals. Where are we concentrated? We're concentrated in the urban areas.
Right.
We we elected 3 Black women as mayors in Lawrence, in Evansville, and Michigan City. We have more Black mayors than we have ever had in the history of Indiana. We got Elkhart, Gary, and I want to not Michigan City. That's where Angie is. But there's another brother up north. But that's where we win, and so I just want people to understand we're going to have a hard time putting a Black person in a congressional district or a brown person, for that matter, in a congressional district or in a state house, state senate district where there aren't that many of us. Right.
I understand that I have some drawbacks when it comes to getting people excited. Here's another old white guy. I understand that, but I can't change who I am. And yet I'm willing to run this race for all of us.
Yeah.
Not just my granddaughters, all of us, because if we don't beat Jim Banks now,
that's 30 years.
Then he's an incumbent Republican senator from Indiana. What do you think the chances are of beating him the next time?
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
So, like it or not, folks, I'm the best chance we've got. And if we don't take it, shame on us, because it's the only chance we're going to get.
Yeah.
And, this is hard work. I'm still trying to collect signatures. Yeah. And most of the campaigns have already turned their signatures in.
Wow.
I'm going to need another week or two to get enough signatures before we turn them in.
Calling out all volunteers. Go online, download a signature sheet, put your name in it, and email it over so that he can get those things turned in. Quit playing. Let's get him on the ballot. And look, and I'm going to say that about all the statewide candidates, right? Because Indiana's own does not endorse in the primaries for multiple reasons. But if you have not signed a petition to get the statewide candidates on a ballot, do it. Quit playing.
Well, most of the petitions are done.
Good.
I might be the only one still out in the field trying to get enough signatures. And so you can go to my website at markforindiana.com and you can click on petition, and you can print off the petition that is used to get signatures to get me on the ballot. The address that you can mail that completed form to is right on the front.
Okay.
And so there's 10 slots there. You know 10 friends and
10
family
friends.
members. And so anyway, it's a two-page. Oh, here, I got one right here. I've been working on them all day. It's a 2-page petition. It comes off the printer or comes off the computer on 2 pages, but print it back to back on 1 sheet. So the front and the back are all on 1 sheet. Then anyway, the address is right here. You put the county up here in the corner. This happens to say Jennings County. And so anyway,
yeah.
If you want to help without having to do too much, print off a sheet, a petition sheet off the website, copy it back to back, and knock yourself out, because we can use every signature we can get.
Time, talent, and treasure. That's 2024. Time, talent, and treasure. Let's get Mark and all the candidates who want to run on these ballots, because we can't win if we can't compete. And it honestly, it takes all of us. Mark is the candidate, or the other ladies who are out there running, they're the candidates. Yes, they are. But it's all of us. There's no way that one person by themselves can get themselves to the United States Senate. It takes a team. That's why I keep talking about, Democrats, let's be in community. Let's be in community with each other so that we can help each other be better and make a better place for us. Because if we don't, we won't have a community. We will be living under the way they want us to be. So get with my man. Go to his website. I put the link on the Facebook page. I'll make sure that I include that when I do the remix and the editing to make sure that these things get out. But before we go, you said you wanted to help teachers. But what else do you want to do when you get to that United States Senate?
We need an immigration bill that's fair and enforceable. It needs to be fair, but it needs to be enforceable. And the problem is that really the Republicans, they complain about immigration, but they don't act in good faith. And they like it as a wedge issue, so they don't want to solve it, because then you take it off the table and they can't use it as a wedge. But yeah, I want to go and actually hammer out a fair immigration package, because we need immigrants. Our birth rate is dropping, and who can blame young people for not wanting to bring a child into this world? Right. So anyway, we actually need more people, and we need people with talent and people who are willing to work. So to rail against immigrants is just mean-spirited and narrow-minded.
Especially when it's a nation of immigrants.
No kidding. The Carmichaels are Scottish. And so, I'm an immigrant.
I know Black is European, but that ain't where I came from.
Anyway.
Look, I ain't even supposed to be over here. This is where the boats dropped us off at.
Right. I don't really have an agenda, except I do think, I want to work on restoring Roe v. Wade as a minimum. That was a compromise in the beginning. But at least, we have to have Roe v. Wade back in force. We have to attack climate change fast. Every year we set a new heat record. And so Banks is a climate denier. Mm-hmm. He's also an election denier.
Oh.
He's one of those who didn't vote to certify the election. So I just want our democracy to survive. Mm-hmm. I want our planet to survive. Mm-hmm. I want women to be treated as equals. I want immigrants to be welcome here. And, there's a lot. I want fair judges who aren't on the take, like Clarence Thomas.
Woo!
And so, one of the things that the Senate does that is so important is, it manages the federal judgeship. Mm-hmm. and ambassadors and members of the cabinet. And so I don't want Jim Banks in there trying to throw a monkey wrench into all this when Joe Biden is just trying to do a decent job.
Yeah.
So, I'm running because of my granddaughters and because of people like Jim Banks. And I just want to go do a decent job that Hoosiers can be proud of.
Whew. Well, you said a mouthful right there. I felt every ounce of that. Guys, click on his Act Blue donate link, donate to his campaign. Click on his website so that you can get the petitions. Help him out. Look, it takes all of us. It takes a village, baby. It's got to be all of us. It's not one person. I've seen his team out all over the state. Wherever I've been, I've seen the Carmichael team out there collecting signatures. So it's not like this is a lazy campaign. Because Indiana's own goes everywhere. So if I've seen him everywhere, then he's out here working, but still we need your help. Nobody can do it on their own. So y'all download, get some signatures. What if I might ask, which districts do you kind of need the most help in so that we can target the work?
It's Northern Indiana. It's 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, that's our people. Okay. You should have told
I'm going to
Gary.
I'm going to Gary on Martin Luther King Day to work with the AFT teachers to gather signatures.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's basically Lake County and Porter County, and then St. Joe County, South Bend, and Allen County, Fort Wayne. It's easy to do. It's just that I started in July.
Mm-hmm.
And in that 5-month period, I made it to 75 different events in 30 different counties. The problem is that I didn't spend enough time in Northern Indiana.
Got it.
And I would have, had there been things to go to. But by the time we started, a lot of the fairs and festivals were over.
Yep.
And we just had to go where we could. Now, my calendar was full. I mean, I didn't have any free evenings. And everywhere we went, as you well know, because you were there, we collected signatures. So it's not like we didn't try. It's just that we got a late start and we didn't spend enough time in Northern Indiana. Well,
can I just say how much I appreciate your transparency and honesty? You're not up here BSing us about, oh, we're fantastic. I would much rather hear the truth, right? Hey, I'm not exactly where I need to be, but we almost there. And this is why it happened versus making excuses like somebody stole my signatures or something crazy like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying how much I appreciate hearing, listen, I'm busting my butt. We still, I don't know about all the other listeners, but honesty and transparency, ain't that what people be asking for when we send people to office and to represent us, for them to be honest and transparent? So I want to thank you for being honest about it and being real about it, because running for statewide office is not an easy job.
No, it's hard to be everywhere at once.
All right.
And there's only one of you. And so you go. And then, like I said, at the end of the year, I look back, I had 2 weeks off at Christmas and New Year's without any events. And I look back and I thought, 75 events in 30 counties, that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
And then I realized 30 counties means you didn't get to 62 of them.
Wow.
So a lot of work to do.
Yep.
A lot of ground to cover. And I understand that everybody wants to see the statewide candidates. I look forward to, after the primary, of being in tandem with Jennifer McCormick.
Okay.
And being the top two on the ticket, working together, traveling together, helping each other, because I think she is great and she's who we need. We need checks and balances in Indiana. We desperately need a governor, a Democrat governor, to keep an eye on the Republicans who have had a stranglehold on this state for so many years that they can make $1 billion mistake and just kind of shrug it off.
And
well,
$1 billion mistake that actually harms lives in Indiana. That's
right.
Whatever.
So we'll make it up. We've got this huge surplus that we built on the backs of children and the poor. And so we've got the money, because we're really proud of our AAA rating.
But we got a hole in our roof.
What's $1 billion among friends,
Right.
Well, it's ridiculous. And we need her. Indiana people need her as a check and balance against these Republicans. And I want to help her.
But here's the other thing. Even if we get her elected or get a Democrat, because I think that Tammy Dixon is running for governor as well. So, and I stay neutral. Even if we get a Democrat in the governors, we got to get rid of that. We got to have a veto proof. Right now, even if she says no, I don't want to do a thing, they can veto it and move on. So we got to.
Yeah. But there's still a lot of commissions and judge appointments and, department heads and people that she appoints. I mean, it'll change the world. Plus, if you want to rebuild the Democrat Party, you have to have a governor. A United States senator would be great, but a governor is critical for raising money and for having the, influence with people around the country.
Shoot, yeah. The people still riding the coattails of Evan Bayh.
We need a governor. We need a governor.
All right, but we also need you, Marc Carmichael. We need you. We need a Democrat.
I think that's true too.
Tell the people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me at markforindiana.com, and that's Mark with a C, M-A-R-C. My parents, I don't know whether they did me a favor or not, but now it sets me apart. markforindiana.com.
All right, I love it. And thank you so much for taking time to rap with us today. Guys,
well, thank you, Dana.
Again, it is so important that we all be in community with each other. Bring your time, your talent, your treasure. We can't change the things if we're not competing. And filing deadline opened up yesterday. Opened up, wide open. It's open. So if you are still contemplating on whether or not you want to run for office, go down to your county clerk's office and sign up, sign the affidavit, get it notarized, do what you got to do, and put your name on the ballot. Because we need to be having all 100 House seats contested and all 25 Senate seats contested in that state House. I know that sounds crazy. You're like, what? Put your name on the ballot. You never know what might happen. If you give it some effort, give it a little effort, put your name on the ballot and give it some effort because, and I said it last week and I'm going to say it almost every week. Indiana is ground zero for the end of our democracy. We have a gubernatorial candidate who is super duper excited about the indicted Orange Menace blessing him to run for governor. And then you got bootlicker Jim Banks, who is also super excited about having the sexual assailant, who's going back for defamation on someone he has sexually assault. He's really happy because, Jim Banks is all about that religion, but he wants to stand by the sexual assault person, the one that sexually assaults people. Hypocrite much. Anyway, this is Indiana's ground zero.
It is.
And when nobody is paying attention, everybody paying attention to Florida. I just read an article today where, a county in Florida trying to adhere to their book ban laws took books off the shelves. So 1,600 books off the shelves so students couldn't read them. Some of them were like Beyonce's biography, Malcolm X's biography. First of all, they can't read about Martin Luther King. Like, really? We about to celebrate his birthday, but you can't read about him? Huh? But we don't get the attention that Florida and Texas gets. People fly over us, but there are over 6 million Hoosiers who are living under really bad policies. I mean, think about it. Remember the opioid crisis? The HIV crisis in Scott County? You know why that happened? Because the Democrats were like, hey, listen, we would love for these people not to do drugs, but can we just give them clean needles? If we give them clean needles, it'll be safer. We want them to stop taking drugs, yes, but let's give them clean. You know what happened? The Republican governor, Mike Pence, said, no, we're not finna do that. And we had an HIV outbreak in the 2000s in Scott County. So what I'm saying to you is people are living under bad policies. We don't have to take this, but if we want it to change, we have to get up and do something about it. You can't look at Mark and say, well, Mark, you do it. You can't look at Dana and say, Dana, you do it. No, we all have to be in community, bringing our time, talent, and treasure to the movement. All right. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in to Turn Left. I love doing this show. Next week, I am off. I've got to go down to New Orleans with Act Blue, but I'll be back the following week. I have a couple more guests lined up, ready to go. Guys, 2024. This is where we make a change. This is we make our last stand. This is our Alamo, because y'all love to talk about the Alamo. Yeah, y'all love it. I like Harper's Ferry myself, but whatever. This is where we make our stand. Okay? Y'all get involved, sign up, do what you gotta do, holla at me. I will holla at y'all in a couple weeks. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.